So let's take a look at an algebra question from the Leaving Cert Ordinary Level 2012 Paper 1. We're going to look at two solutions for this question. So the question says, verify that 3 plus root 2 is a root or a solution of this quadratic equation, x squared minus 6x plus 7 equals 0. So the first method that we're going to do on this slide is going to be substitution. So when we sub in 3 plus root 2 into this equation, it should satisfy the equation, meaning that the left-hand side, when we sub in x equals 3 plus root 2 for both the x's, we should get 0. The second method is we're going to actually go and find the two roots of this equation and show that 3 plus root 2 is one of those. And we'll do that by using the minus b formula. Okay, so let's have a look at the substitution method. So we write down our quadratic equation, x squared minus 6x plus 7 equals 0. And for the x's, we're going to substitute in x is equal to 3 plus root 2. So here we have 3 plus root 2 squared minus 6 on 3 plus root 2 plus 7 equals 0. When you square a bracket, you're multiplying it by itself. So let's write it like that. So 3 plus root 2 times another 3 plus root 2. We'll multiply this bracket out. So 6 by 3 is 18. And then minus 6 times root 2 is just minus 6 root 2. And then we have the 7 equals 0. To expand these brackets, we're going to multiply 3 on 3 plus root 2 plus root 2 on 3 plus root 2. Then we have the minus 18 minus 6 root 2 plus 7 equals 0. We leave for now the tidying up the minus 18 and the 7. 3 by 3 is 9. 3 times root 2 is 3 root 2. Root 2 times 3 is also 3 root 2. And then root 2 by root 2 is root 2 squared. And root 2 squared is the number 2. Just to show this over on the side, if we have root 2 by root 2, that would be equal to the root of 4. And the root of 4 is 2. So when you square a square root, you end up with the number underneath the square root. So root 2 by root 2 is actually the number 2. Minus 18 minus 6 root 2 plus 7 equals 0. 3 root 2 plus 3 root 2 is 6 root 2. And 6 root 2 minus 6 root 2 is 0. And so they all cancel. If we take a look at the numbers, well, we have 9 plus 2 is 11 plus 7 is 18. And 18 minus 18 is also 0. And so they all cancel. And what we're left with is that 0 equals 0. And then make sure at the end we write down, therefore, 3 plus root 2 is a root or a solution to this equation. So an alternate method to verify that 3 plus root 2 is a solution to this quadratic equation is to go and solve the quadratic equation. So we can solve the quadratic equation using the quadratic formula that's in our tables, the minus b formula. So we write down our quadratic equation, x squared minus 6x plus 7 equals 0. And we need to find out what a, b, and c are for the formula. A is the coefficient of the x squared term, which in this case is 1. B is the coefficient of the x term, which in this case is minus 6. And then c is the term that's independent of x, that has no x part of it. So that's going to be 7. We sub these into the formula, and we have x is equal to minus 6 plus or minus the root of minus 6 squared minus 4 by 1 by 7 all over 2 by 1. Be really careful with our signs. We can see that we have a minus by a minus here, which will become a plus in a minute. And also that this minus 6 is inside of a bracket. So if we don't put this minus 6 in a bracket, our calculator will give us minus 36 because it will square the 6 and then multiply that by a minus. What we need is that minus 6 to be in a bracket because we're asking what's minus 6 times minus 6. And that's of course going to be plus 36. So on the next line we have minus by a minus is a plus 6 plus or minus, minus 6 squared is plus 36, and minus 4 times 1 times 7 is 28. On the bottom, we have 2 times 1 is 2. We can tidy up the root of 36 minus 28, that's going to be the root of 8. And then using the rule of surds, we can say that root 8 is equal to root 4 times root 2, and root 4 is 2, so that's 2 times root 2. Now our calculator will just turn root 8 into 2 root 2. At this stage, we're going to divide the sum into the plus version and the minus version. So one solution will be 6 plus 2 root 2 over 2, and the second solution will be 6 minus root 2 over 2. 2 divides into 6 and into 2, so this can be simplified to x is equal to 3 plus root 2. And then on the other side, the same, 2 will divide into 6 and into minus 2 to give us x is equal to 3 minus root 2. Now we were asked to verify that 3 plus root 2 was a solution or a root, and we have that here. So we've also found the other root of the equation, which they didn't ask us to find, but it's useful to know this method in case the question was to actually solve the quadratic equation, in which case we would have had to find the two roots. Hence we've shown that 3 plus root 2 is a solution to the equation.